Okay, a few ground rules before we get started. You and I obviously have different opinions and grew up with different card games. Please don't bash me because I didn't include your favorite card game on my top 10 list. This is a top 10 list of the top games that I found the most fun. Just because I put one card game above another doesn't mean it had better mechanics, it just means that I personally had a better experience with that game. To save some time, I'm only going to give about 1 minute to each card game, which means I'm not going to go very in depth with it, because you can't go very in depth with a card game in about a minute. I will probably at some point do a full review of each of these card games, so if my information is scarce in this video, please understand that I need to save time. Lastly, legal stuff. I do not own any of the images or videos shown in this video. Thank you very much. Without further ado, this is Kudou's top 11 card games that he had the most fun with. Why top 11? Because Magic isn't in my top 10, and if I don't include it somewhere, somebody is going to hate me for it. Number 11. What's there left to say about Magic, really? I mean, it's the father of pretty much all card gaming today. It's one of the main card games responsible for making card games such a huge hit. For like the three of you that don't know, Magic is a game where you play a sorcerer called a planeswalker. You draw energy from different worlds across different dimensions called mana, and you use that energy to cast spells and summon monsters to help you fight against your opponent. The game has some ridiculously solid mechanics, and this game is an absolute blast to play if you and your friends pick up a couple of boxes and learn it together. However, as solid as the mechanics are, the cards themselves can get a bit broken. It's not that you can really pick out one or two cards as being broken, it's that the cards together can create really broken scenarios that they didn't playtest. Between infinite loops and one-turn knockouts, this game is a nightmare to get into if you're new and your friends have been playing for a few years. In an attempt to fix this, Wizard made it so that sets become illegal abnormally fast. While this does keep some of the older, more broken cards out of the meta, it also means that the favorite deck you just built and enjoy playing with will not last you more than a few years. Also, on a more personal note, Magic the Gathering has the worst community of any card game ever. And all of you Magic players out there going, "No we're not, our community is way superior to other card games communities," or, "Yeah, Magic players are like that, not me though, I'm perfect in pretty much every conceivable way and I'm always nice all the time, and humble." You are a part of the problem. Number 10.
Once you have the most powerful monster, you're ready to be a true champion. Get the power.
Playtime is over.
The power of the cards.
It's time to duel.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the other huge gaming giant, and I know I'm gonna get a few complaints that it's so low on my list. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is an exceptionally fun game to play. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game where you're summoning monsters to try to take out your opponent, and you have some magic and spell cards to help you along the way. Despite some people wearing their nostalgia goggles a little too tight, the game has gotten a lot better over the years. In the old days, it almost felt like a competition of who can get the biggest monster out the quickest. XCs and Synchros were really good additions because it made it so you could have a toolbox of things you needed for certain situations to the side, regardless of what deck you played. One thing I do hate about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the fact that there are trash cards. Don't get me wrong, there are cards that you wouldn't play in other card games, but in this game there are true trash cards that nobody can run. Also, this isn't like some modern card games where there are decks that can win, but only under certain situations. No, there are decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! That legitimately just cannot beat other decks. The brutal metagame makes me feel like I'll never become a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Player, but I can't deny that the game is a lot of fun to play. Number 9. Quickstrike started out here as the Shaman King card game. Eventually the system grew to support a lot of different sets, most notably Avatar, and was one of the earliest examples of a cross-fighting card game. The game worked kind of like volleyball. You had an attack of a certain power that was coming towards you, and you had 3 chances to stop it. If you can't stop it, your opponent gets a point. If you can stop it, your opponent now has to deal with the power of the attack that you just sent back. Admittedly, the game doesn't hold up that well now, but it was a lot of fun to play back in the day. I feel Shaman King was a pretty underrated classic, so I'm really glad that it got a fun card game to go with it. I'm not quite sure who said, hey, who would win in a fight, the Shamans from Shaman King or the Benders from Avatar, nor can I imagine why the person responded with, I don't know, let's make it a card game. But to you, sirs, I am eternally grateful. Number 8.
Player 1 has summoned Immortal Baron Vor.
He's 12-0 and holds the record for consecutive faces rearranged.
And Player 2 summons Bullshack Dragon with a record of 15-0 and a lot of shenizzle in his sizzle.
Here they go.
Borg swing.
But Bullshack counters with an uppercut of flame.
And Borg goes down!
Genius.
Duel Masters was kind of like Magic, but it was meant for kids that were a little too young for Magic. You've got a mana pool, and you summon monsters to attack your opponent. One huge glaring difference, obviously, is that you don't have life counters, you have shields. So when you attack, you're not actually dealing any numbers to your opponent, what you're doing is destroying one of their shields and getting closer to attacking them for game. One thing I really like about this game is it has kind of an equalizer. See, when you attack one of your opponent's shields, that card goes to their hand, so they have a better chance of defending themselves because you're also giving them hand advantage. It kept you from feeling like there was absolutely no chance you could come back from a match. Another thing I loved about this game is you don't have cards that are specifically designated to be mana cards. This meant you could never be mana screwed, but it also meant you had to understand the situation. You had to know when some of your most powerful cards needed to be sacrificed to make your earlier turns go a bit smoother. The game knew how to be deep and challenging without sacrificing fun. And hey, maybe since the game's gotten a reboot, there's more fun to be had. Number 7.
The Eye of Judgement, a collectible card game that comes to life on screen. Choose your cards, strategically place them on the battle map, and conquer your opponent. Collect additional cards to grow your strategy. The Eye brings the battle to life. The Eye of Judgement, PlayStation 3 software and booster packs in stores now. Rated T.
Eye of Judgement was a stupid gimmick that came out a few years ago. It was supposed to make the duels feel more epic because you were bringing the cards you played to life on screen to watch them battle. And it worked! Oh my god, I loved this game so much! The point of the game was to occupy 5 of the 9 squares you saw on screen. If you ended your turn while occupying 5 squares, then you won. It sounds pretty simple, but with things like the terrain and spell cards and the way mana works, it's actually pretty complicated. To oversimplify it, playing characters on terrain they liked made them harder to kill, while playing them on terrain they hated made them easier to kill. Also, you got some mana back every time one of your characters died. The game was kind of a commercial failure, mainly because it was really easy for people to just print the cards they wanted to use offline without buying any of the booster packs. Also, the camera was ridiculously picky. If you had too much light on the cards, it would create glare and it wouldn't be able to pick them up. But if you didn't have enough light, then it couldn't read the cards and bring the cards to life on screen. They tried to bring this game back to life with a Vita port, but it's just not the same. The magic came from outwitting your opponent and watching all of your hard work unfold on the screen as a story. All I can really hope for is reliving the magic on one of the next-gen consoles. Number 6.
I need backup!
A rookie cop facing unspeakable evil.
There's something really wrong here. These things aren't dying. I just blasted this thing, and it's still alive!
Deck building games hit the mainstream a few years ago. The idea of a deck building game is each player isn't pre-constructing a deck and then coming to play with it. Instead, you and your friends start with a handful of cards and build your deck on the fly as you play. Sound interesting? You don't know the half of it. The idea of deck building has gotten pretty big, and as a result, we have a lot of really good ones out there. Personally though, I still stick with Resident Evil as the one that did it the best. It's competitive, but the core rules allow for you to play a cooperative game too, and that's just as much fun. Right under this though is Tanto Cuore, which is kinda like this with sexy maids. Can't even believe I'm about to say this, but good gameplay beats out hot anime maids. Deck building games are pretty cheap too. Just find one you like and find a few friends, open the box and have some fun. This is one fad I don't think you want to miss out on. Number 5.
先生もやるんですか
漫画とく
はいライドアタックマジ頑張ってアタック
Vanguard is one of my more recent card game adventures, but my god am I having a lot of fun with it. Instead of being just a player, you yourself are represented as one of the cards on the field, and you get stronger as you go along. The rest of the cards in your deck are characters that can come and help you in battle. From there on, it's pretty much just you and your opponent attacking each other, trying to see who gets worn down first. The main twist in the game comes from the fact that you and your opponent can use cards from your hands to mitigate damage. This makes it so that you have very few actual dead draws, and it always makes you feel like you have a chance of coming back. Card games can be progressively less fun if you feel like you're just getting pushed down all the time, and I've never had that problem with this game. I'm having fun with it, and if you try it out, maybe you will too. Number 4.
Weiss Schwarz!
Don't look shocked, you all knew this was going to be on here somewhere. The idea behind Weiss Schwarz is take your favorite anime or video game and beat the crap out of somebody else's favorite anime or video game. You take turns dealing damage to each other, and once somebody hits 28 damage, they lose. The twist? The more damage you take, the higher level cards you can play. The game is a balance between taking enough damage to play your best cards, but not taking so much damage you're in danger of losing. Does this sound even slightly interesting? I know a great channel you can go to check out more information about this awesome game. Number 3. You don't know what this game is. None of you know what this game is. And that is a ridiculous shame. It's not your fault. This game wasn't marketed very well, so not a lot of people know about it. Heck, I found it by complete accident. It's not a huge commercial game like Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or even Vanguard nowadays, but you know what this game is? It's fun. Alteil has become a game that I will never forget. To try and explain it a bit, you don't have an actual playing deck. You do technically have a deck, but it's not the deck in your traditional sense. See, you put your deck in something called a file folder, and when you play the game, you play with all of your cards at once. No drawing, no searching your deck, you play with all of your cards at the same time. That makes matches a lot more tactical and a lot less luck-based. You're not going to not draw your grade 3. You're not going to not draw enough mana. There is a slight luck element, but for the most part, it's mainly just using skill and knowing your deck. Because the game is so skill-based, I've seen players pick up starter decks and beat the crap out of people who've been playing for years. This isn't a game where just owning the best cards means you're going to win all the time. On that note, one of the main downsides of this game is they want ridiculous amounts of money if you're going to buy some of the higher grade cards. But you can get booster packs by just playing the game and earning points. All in all, this is a superb card game that deserves a lot more than it gets. If you don't go to alteil.com and sign up for a free account after this video's over, then clearly I haven't done my job very well. Number 2.
ファイルを開いて電源入れてバトルしカードバトルを再現ゲームボーイアドバンスで強くなる気で栃木のが締めるザ・カードバトル4ゲームボーイアドバンス急げ
The Zatch Bell card game is a magical little lightning bolt that will never strike again. The game was released way before its time, and the source material definitely doesn't help it any. I don't know about you guys, but I really didn't like the anime of Zatch Bell. Yeah, the fight scenes were kind of okay, but the humor failed pretty hardcore for me. I didn't really connect to any of the characters, and the story was pretty dumb. Pretty dumb. But the card game, that's where it was at. One of the most interesting and, admit it, awesome things about the card game is you didn't play with a standard deck. You put your cards in a book. Now, for one, the Zatch Bell books are friggin' cool. For 2, this added a really neat strategy element to the game, because you weren't drawing cards randomly, you were playing in the order you put them in the book. This meant you could plan out step by step what your plan was on taking out your opponent. And if you wanted to switch it up a little bit, you could even switch around the pages so that different things happen at different times. And number 3, the book was freaking cool! I mean, handing your deck to somebody to have them look it over is one thing, but handing them your book? Letting somebody look through my Momoto book is a timeless kind of magic that will never get old. The card game will always have a place in my heart, and my Momoto book will always have a place in my collection. Number 1.
I play Rasengan!
Confused? Do you want to know why Naruto is the most fun card game I've ever played? The card game I would drop hundreds and hundreds of dollars on right now and start playing again. Why it's the card game I've spent well into the thousands of hours of my life perfecting and learning as well as I can. I'm afraid this 1-minute slot isn't enough time to tell you, but believe me, you'll know soon enough. For today, this is all I can give you, but you stay tuned. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, like, and comment. We're already 12 into our next 100. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart for subscribing and sticking with me this long. Enjoy your card games, nerds. I will always enjoy mine.